It took 7 years for Nintendo to finally upgrade the Switch 1 into the Switch 2. Very original, Nintendo. I've been waiting tirelessly for this system to come out, and when pre-orders went up, I was very nervous, but I ended up getting a pre-order for the Switch 2. Launch day happened last week on Thursday, and I was able to secure it Thursday night, and I ended up taking the day off of work on Friday to play and experience and get some gameplay recorded for you guys. So for today's video, we're going to be combining all that into one video, and I'm going to be going over the first 24 hours of the Switch 2. It's going to be my likes and my dislikes, and has some gameplay of what I've been playing on the Switch 2. So stay right where you are, right here, right now. You are watching The Average Joe Show. That's me, I'm Joe. And this is the first 24 hours of the Switch 2. Let's get to the video. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, as I said in the intro, we are going to be talking about my first impressions of the Switch 2. So basically what I have done is got the Switch 2, first of all, and I have played I played most of the day on Friday. I played till probably midnight, 1 o'clock on Thursday. And then I took a break, went to a concert, and went to a theme park. And when I was riding the rides at the theme park, I was actually able to like jog the memory, jog the brain, and get some true impressions on the Switch 2, right? Because I do feel like it's something that I've been asking for a very long time. And I probably have blinders on, right? So I kind of wanted to not making it the day of after playing all the hours that I put into it, because I probably would have a much more biased opinion. And I'm just gonna be honest, guys, my opinion's already probably biased, because is the Switch 2 exactly what I wanted? And I would say yes. So you can click out the video right now, and that's all you need to know, right? But stick around, and I will tell you what I like and what I don't like. And I will touch on games. I'm not going to dive into games. I'm going to focus this discussion mainly on the Switch 2 itself. So Switch 2, guys, it is here, it is out, and it is fantastic. I really like it. It is an amazing upgrade from the Switch 1. Switch 1 has been out for 7 to 8 years already. I remember back when the OLED rumors and stuff started, and it was like the Switch 2 Pro. I was already ready for it. This is because around that time, the PS5, the Xbox Series X had already come out. And what was really getting to me is as the years went on and on and on, you could really start telling with, if you're switching back and forth between like a PlayStation or an Xbox that is always running at a highest resolution, it's just really jarring to go back to the Switch. And even though the games on the Switch, especially if they're first-party Nintendo games, look great, there's always that it's not always the best quality visually, right? And if you're jumping between the two, you really start to see it. And it is fantastic to finally have something that lives up to that standard. I mean, Nintendo has not really been in that boat since probably the GameCube. Like, this thing can do 4K, dock mode, which is amazing, right? I don't know exactly if there is any games right now that have come out that are running on that, but we know coming up there are games that are going to be having them as a feature, which is really cool. It feels like a complete experience, because what it doesn't do is it didn't reinvent the wheel. It is building upon the foundation that the Switch already has. The menu, the user interface hasn't changed, which in my opinion, and this is my opinion, it is a good thing to not overhaul the user interface. You start it up and it looks pretty much like an updated, they rounded the corners of the gaming icon, the game icons on the screen. They updated the capture, or the communications, whatever capture feature, game chat basically. They've updated the menu to show that. They've updated the eShop. They've updated the sound effects of just the clicking. Everything just sounds different from the Switch 1, giving you that different vibe. And everything, the funny thing is, like, everything on the console, like the controllers, the buttons, like, it gives you that Switch clicky sound effects all the time. And then when you're playing on the TV mode, it has different sound effects that are kind of clicky too. So they're kind of going all in on the new sound effects to make it like a new experience. And I think they did a pretty good job on that. Other than that, if you have been a constant Switch player, you'll find that, like, Booting it up, it's almost exactly the same outside of some of the more refined details, which is pretty nice. One part where they missed is having themes at launch. I don't know why themes weren't in Switch 1 in the first place. I think that it's a good possibility that they added in, especially if they're not selling, if the Switch 2 doesn't sell as much consoles, kind of like how, the 3DS wasn't selling as much consoles and they threw the themes in the 3DS and as an option. And I think, easy revenue kind of flow kind of thing. I think it would be really easy on the Switch too, but they had the themes in the Switch 1 and they just never did anything with it. But anyway, minimum user interface changes is a good thing. You're not rewriting the system. They didn't have to rewrite the system. They just got to add upon it and make sure everything looks good. And they did that. So good on them. Now let's talk about what I've actually played. So I've played, of course, the launch game, Mario Kart World. I've played Tears of the Kingdom, Switch 2, and I played the GameCube emulator, as well as a bunch of Switch 1's games. And I'll go in order of that. I'm not going to go too far into detail, but I'll tell you kind of like my thoughts on it. So let's start with Mario Kart World. Mario Kart World is a new Mario Kart game, and what I mean by that is that the mechanics are different. Not only the mechanics different, right? It's an open world Mario Kart game. I've been spending a lot of my time doing the Grand Prix, doing the knockout tournaments. The knockout tournament Grand Prix are kind of the same. I have my issues with the Grand Prix stuff, but we'll talk about what I like the most, which are the knockout tournament, which is basically a long extended race where you fight for positioning, and if you don't make a certain position, your character's eliminated. I really like this. I like the continuous racing. I think that is one of the things the game does super well. You're constantly going, you're constantly battling. Starting out, it's kind of like a scramble to get positioning, and then as you go, it's like a constant fight between first place and fourth place, and then you get to that last lap and you're like, okay, now I have to race, which is, I think it's fun. It fits that game so well because of all the mechanics of it, and I'm glad that they really included that as its own mode. All the characters are very fun. Haven't unlocked all the characters, haven't unlocked all the karts. I do have a slight issue with when you're racing, not in free roam, but in Grand Prix, knockout, when you're on straightaways and there's nothing there, it feels very lacking. There's nothing to really turn. Sometimes like the turns don't feel as good, right? Sometimes there's long stretches or long curves that just don't have anything, and I don't know if that's by design because there's 24 players, but it's weird because the rest of the game, when you're not in those spots, there's a ton of stuff happening almost at all times of the game. So weird breaks like that, weird acceleration boost thing. I like at some points I feel like you go faster without drifting, and I won a whole knockout tournament without drifting. I know the coins are important now, and I maxed it to 20 and I didn't drift a single time, and I ended up just winning. That's strange. I think it might be a balancing issue, but we'll have to wait and see. I would say that in this entire time I've been playing the game, I've played it probably for 5 to 6 hours, give or take. Played it on TV mode, and I've also played on handheld mode, and it works great in both areas. We'll have a separate discussion, a more thought out discussion on Mario Kart World, and then I'll also do a do and don'ts of that. So stick around to the channel, subscribe if you want to see that kind of content. That is coming up. Just want to get more hours in it. You have to really relearn the whole driving. It's been such a long time with the same mechanics from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that it definitely, like, I think there was a learning curve there, and I'm getting a lot better at the new mechanics, so I'll go into more detail later in other videos. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 editions. Now, I've already made a video on Switch 2 editions, predictions, and that kind of territory, like what makes it a Switch 2 edition, right? And I would say Tears of the Kingdom, probably Breath of the Wild. I haven't played the Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition yet, but the Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition, if this is how they're going to be rolling out Switch 2 editions, I am all for it. For $10, you can just buy the upgrade, or if you have the expansion pass, it's free. Basically, you have to go and download it on top of the game. So what I ended up doing is downloading that second, I believe, right after the transfer of all my Switch data onto it. So I have my old save file from Tears of the Kingdom that I've never beat, loaded it up, and one of the first first things that I did was just do a pan around the world, and it was incredible. It was basically how I feel like the game was supposed to be. It was funny, I spawned in the Goron area, the Mount Eldon or whatever that mountain's called, and there was immediately a boss bokoblin, and it had 5 regular bokoblins around it, and I immediately had all the champion characters out, and we went and did the fight, and it did not drop a single frame rate once. Fighting felt so much better. Using the champions felt so much better. Being able to dodge, parry, it's like almost everything is a step up. Like getting hit like makes more sense to me now, and I never really enjoyed the fighting on the Switch 1. I would almost avoid fighting unless I needed to get certain materials, because I just felt like I was never timing anything right. And now I feel like I'm actually doing something. Now I feel like I'm timing everything right, and that is really cool. And being the first thing, I just happened to be in the correct spot in the save was pretty funny. So that was like the first thing I did as soon as I did, and I felt like I was testing the limits of the system. After I did that, I immediately went to I had to do it, go to the Korok Forest, and not a single, it's true, not a single frame rate drop. That kind of got me into this mood where I was just like, okay, I need to go find all my Switch 1 games where I know that there were frame rate drops and stuff, and I gotta see how the Switch 2 plays it. And so then what I did was try all my Switch 1 games out in my library. I probably played like each one, like do a level, or play for 15 minutes and just see the differences. So I did Hyrule Warriors, Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. I did Animal Crossing. I did New Super Mario Bros. Wii U Deluxe or whatever that game's called. I did a whole bunch of games, and I will say that this left me feeling overwhelmed. For instance, the first game I said, Hyrule Warriors. It is so clean. All the animations, all the times that it was like you could see stuttering, enemy pop in, all that kind of stuff. It's just so smooth. It's clean, and it makes you want to replay the game. It's almost like the Switch 2 is making the Switch 1 games the best version of the game, as it should. And what it really is doing is making this might be the best backwards compatibility of any console I've ever gotten, which is really cool, right? Because, I have a huge Switch 1 library, and it's making me want to go back and play all those games with just like basic updated features, right? I want to go back and experience the games how I think the devs want to, but it raises the question, is like, did the devs really just like push all their games through on the Switch 1 just because, or did they they leave kind of like the Echoes of Wisdom, right? Like they couldn't fix like the frame rate stuttering, so did they just leave that in knowing the Switch 2 was going to come out and was going to like fix it, right? Because this thing's been around in development for quite some time. So but overall, the Switch 2 has to have the best backwards compatibility of any console, minus, I guess, Steam, right? Because once you buy stuff on Steam, you always have it. And then the other thing, this is actually a surprise. Wasn't expecting this for me because I've played a lot of GameCube games. I have a pretty decent sized GameCube collection. That's what I had as a kid growing up. And maybe Nintendo release this emulator for the Switch 2 release because it's my generation that's kind of buying it and are used to growing up with GameCube games and that kind of stuff. But I will say I'm having a fantastic time playing I've only played 2 out of the 3 games so far, but Wind Waker, F-Zero are two games that if you haven't played them, they are almost a must play. Going through Wind Waker brings back so many good positive memories. It is a unique Zelda game. Color is great. It did have a little bit of like some issues with like when rumble was happening and handheld mode. Kept saying that there was too much rumbling when I was going through Dragon Roost Island, that dungeon, because it's in a volcano and basically there's a bunch of rumbling happening, and it was doing a weird, I don't know if it was just a glitch, or it would just pop on the screen saying that it was rumbling too much, it needs to turn off. Other than that, it has just been a good time, very nostalgic, very like I'm glad I don't have to hook up my Wii or my GameCube to play GameCube games again, and I can just boot up the Switch and take it with me anywhere. Take a GameCube game with me anywhere I go and just play it. Like it, the nostalgia, they got me with the nostalgia. The other thing, playing on the, I've played it on the handheld mode and the Switch 2 Pro controller. I think there's something weird with like the camera sensitivity. Both controllers, the joysticks, I think have like a faster sensitivity than the Pro controller, or like vice versa. And it's just very strange, but once you kind of play for a few minutes, you kind of get used to it. Also, the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller, I think it just feels kind of off because the Joy-Con, you know, like the joysticks are just a little bit different than like the movement in a GameCube controller. Minor detail, very minor detail, but sometimes like the slowness of like the rotation, I feel like the GameCube one was much more, you could basically like, you know, spin a circle much faster than on the regular Pro controller. Some games require some, you know, like that kind of motion, but others don't. And right now, the ones that they got don't even require that. It's just a feel thing. It's just a feel thing, guys. But very surprised that I am putting more time into the GameCube games. Didn't realize it. But I think Wind Waker, I'm very big fan of the game. Just kind of has taken over, you know, more of my playtime so far than I thought. So it's going to be exciting when they're going to be releasing more and more games. Before we wrap it up, I will say that I am kind of doing like a 50-50. I've played it on the TV, played it in handheld mode. When you play it in like a handheld setting, it is a much bigger controller, it is a much bigger system, and it's also heavier. That's not a huge complaint for me, but I was noticeable. Other things that I would like to note is that when you take the system off of the dock after you've been playing it for about an hour or so, the Switch itself is very, very hot. So I guess they really do need that fan back in behind it on the dock while it's being there, also it definitely would overheat. And if you flip the system upside down, there's a lot of cooling stuff there too. I don't think it would melt anything, but it was like absurdly hot the first time that I took it out and then I started playing. I was like, whoa, is that like how it's supposed to be? But you know, as I had it, I think it was about 15 minutes later, I checked the back again and it was not that hot. So it's only when it's in dock mode. We'll see if that causes any issues. I haven't really seen anything else about that online, so just letting you guys know that it does get hot in the dock for sure. But yeah, other than that, having a great time with this system. It is everything that I wanted. I'm excited for the more games coming out. You really do have to see these games running in order to believe it. I don't think that it, you know, videos online do you justice, but if you are looking for an upgrade, if you are looking for a system that you can just play your Nintendo games, you don't have to download any emulators, and you just want to have that console experience, I would get the Switch 2, in all honesty, especially if you're a Switch 1 owner. I would, if you could pick it up. If you can, I understand that the price is a lot. It is definitely been it's the most I've ever spent on a console on launch date to get all this stuff here, and it is, I think it's worth it. It's worth it for me. You know, I'm gonna be putting a ton of hours into it. I'm gonna be making a bunch of videos on the games on the console, and for me it's worth it. I don't know how the waiting game's gonna go with all the stuff coming out about, you know, the shortages and all that kind of stuff, but I would say if you own a Switch 1 and, you know, you are looking for that next gen experience, this is the system. And I would say pick it up, save up your money, pick it up. You only need the base, right? Because like I said earlier in the video, a lot of your Switch 1 catalog is gonna be playing so much better, so much smoother, and it's gonna just feel good, and you're gonna want to replay your Switch 1 library, which is really cool. On top of that, you can just play a Switch 1 game while you're waiting for Switch 2, you know, a new Switch 2 game to come out. So it's very unique. I've never had a console come out and almost have an entire library of games already that I want to play on it. Like, that is why I haven't even bought anything outside of Mario Kart World to try out. And I probably won't until at least Donkey Kong comes out. So anyway, those are my impressions, guys. I know I kind of talked a lot through this, but that is basically what I did for 24 hours between Thursday and Friday, and that's how I'm feeling right now. So that could change, and you would have to be subscribed to the channel if that does change, because I would in fact make a video on it. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. If you like this kind of content, like my style, like me, I guess, in general, hit the like button for the video and drop a comment down below if you're playing the Switch 2, your plans on getting a Switch. If you disagree with my thoughts on the console itself, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.